So hello everyone, I'm Grzesiek Mazur from Warsaw, Poland. My presentation is the art of prototyping case study this war of mine. So I will be talking about the game mostly. So how many of you know the game? Okay, quite many. Alright, cool. But first of all, who am I? Currently I don't work with that guys with this war of mine because I started my own studio. It's called Wild Monarch, but previously I was lead programmer of this war of mine and Sleepwalker's Journey at 11-bit Studios from Warsaw. I'm also a lecturer at Warsaw Film School where I teach game programming mostly in Unity, and I'm also an amateur musician. Here is an email to me and Twitter if you want to write me or talk. Feel free to write because I really like to talk with people, so you can write me. And the topic is the art of prototyping. Okay, this prototyping thing as a philosophy of making games that we had in 11-bit Studios and now we have in our own studio. It's a way that we make games. It's not only about making small prototypes at the very beginning of creating game, but it's all about the whole process. And it's even, I think, something you can use not only in game development. So it's a really cool idea. And but yeah, start with what exactly is this prototype? So it's a sketch, an early representation or a model of your game, or just a part of it. So you don't have to, the prototype doesn't have to be a whole game. It can be just the part. It can be like one mechanic from the game, or art style, or some tool for a game. So it doesn't have to be a game. It can be actually something completely different, like an algorithm. I will tell you about it later. And we use it mostly to test the initial design, because we learned that even the best idea in our head can totally, suck in reality. So we have to implement something to check if it's cool or it's not, because we are making games, so it has to be fun, but players need to like it. So we have to test it every time. Even the most experienced guys in the studio sometimes had really cool ideas that in practice were not so cool. So we have to always check it on people. So we do those prototypes mostly for that. But also it's an element of risk management. Because it's good to find all the risky parts of your production as early as possible, so we can make a prototype of something which we think is risky and test it and see if we can do it, if it's possible. For example, if we are doing something really I don't know, hard for a mobile game, we have to check it if we can run it on the phone actually. So we should do those things at the very beginning to check if it's possible. So it's an element of risk management. And as I said, prototypes are particularly important in the pre-production, but can be used until the end of the production of the game. So it's not only about the beginning. We actually use prototyping idea even after releasing the game, because when we are doing some updates, we put some new content to the game, some new mechanics, we still do prototypes for those small things. So this presentation is written from a point of view of a programmer, which is me, and also from a point of view of designer, because my business partner is a designer. So we prepared the content for this presentation together, and there are some insights from artists also. So I hope it will be really interesting for every one of you. Why game designers should prototype? There are many of the reasons. First of all, because it's fast and cheap. So good prototype is always fast and cheap. If it's not, then it's a bad prototype. As I said, we use it to check your design to find its best and worst parts. You will never know how your idea works if you will not test it on players. So you have to implement it and check it. Also, we do those prototypes to improve our design, because when we come to the implementation, very fast implementation of an idea for a game or a mechanic, during this process of doing prototypes, we come with new ideas, how to improve it, how to make it better. So it always gets better with the next iterations of working on that. So it's really good to make those small prototypes. Also, to compare variants, because many times when you have an idea for a game, for example, we have also many ideas how to exactly implement it. So instead of choosing arbitrarily which way we will take, let's make 3 or 4 small prototypes in a week, for example, and compare them and choose the best one. So I think this is the best way. We have a quite cool example in 11-bit Studios because the company started with games called Anomaly. There were 4 games, I think, in the series. It's an inverted tower defense game. And initially, the guys had an idea for an inverted tower defense game, but they had like exactly 3 ways of how exactly you can put it into actual gameplay, how to make this game. So they made 3 prototypes of this game and give it to the players and choose the best one. So that's why the game was pretty good. Probably if they want to do this, the game would be much, much worse. So they tested which one is the best. So, and this is pretty actually with every game. I will tell you another example of this for one later. So, compare variants. Very important thing to test it on people. I will say it all the time. We do prototypes mostly to test it on the people and check if our idea is good or not, if it's fun or it's not fun. But also we can use prototypes to convince and inspire other people, even inside our company. So we can use it internally. Let's have an example. If you finish the game and you want to work on another one, I don't know, someone comes to the studio and say, hey, I have an idea for a game, let's make it. And not everybody probably will be convinced to do this. So that guy that had an idea, he could spend like 1 week at home and do a prototype of this game and show it to the other people in the studio and say to him, look, this game is fun, you can play it, you can check it, and you will believe me, right? So you can also use this idea of prototyping even internally to cooperate with your people and inspire them and convince them to something you think. So it's more about game design here, but what about programmer? We do a lot of those technical prototypes, first of all to X-ray design, because many companies work differently. Our way of working is designer prepares some design, and he goes to a programmer and he needs to implement this. So when, for example, we come with something bigger which will cost us, for example, 1 month of work of a programmer, it's better to start of doing this whole system with a really small prototype of just a part of it, to fast implement it in a fast way, maybe not the best way, but the fast way, to check how exactly it works in practice and to better understand it. So even at this moment, programmer can give feedback to game designer about this idea he came with, if it's good or not, if it's possible to make it or not. So without jumping into whole production, we can, in a few days, for example, give a feedback for a design if it's good or not from a technical point of view. Also, we can make those prototypes to find first problems and bottlenecks. As I said, with this, for example, when we have problems with efficiency, for example, on mobiles or other devices, and if our game is crucial for some things in gameplay we want to do this, let's prototype those small things, put those on the device and check if those can run fast enough or not, if we can actually do it. Or if a game needs a specific, I don't know, graphical effect, let's check it at the very beginning if we can do it, if it will be good enough. Don't check it at the very end, because it can make a lot of problems. Also, to choose your tools smart. We have now many game engines, many libraries, many algorithms we can use to achieve some things in code. And not every time we know exactly which one will be the best. So once again, let's do a small prototype or few of them and compare them and choose the best one. And do not choose arbitrarily one tool. Or if you don't know what to choose, because maybe you're experienced enough to know exactly that I want to choose this engine because it will work better for that game. But if you don't know this, let's check every of them, or some of them, and choose the best one. Also, it allows us to estimate time better. It's really hard sometimes to estimate how much time we will spend on programming something. So once again, we can have, I don't know, maybe a combat system in a game where we have to implement 10 different weapons, for example. So it's hard to tell how much time we will spend on this, but if you will implement one weapon in a fast way, you can do it better. You can estimate how maybe all of them will take time. So it's really easier in that way. Another thing, design cooperation interfaces in your team. When we are doing something as a programmers, we prepare some configuration files and windows in editor for designers or for artists to make actual game, to configure it. So it has to be really good. So when the game has to be easy to play and to understand to player. The same with this config files. It has to be really easy to understand for people in a team. So once again, you can do a fake configuration file, give it to the guys in the studio and ask them if they understand how it works, if they can do the job with this. And if the answer is okay, then you can build the whole system with this config file. If not, you should try another time and change something and do it once again and give it once again to your people. And yeah, to sum up, it allows us to write better code, because with prototype, I will say about it later, the idea is to make it fast and cheap so we can trash it if it's not good enough. So if you will do a fast prototype of some mechanic, you can trash it and then rewrite it better if it's good. And the code will be, I think, in most cases, really much better than if we would start from the beginning to write it seriously. So in our case, it worked better at most of the times. Okay, so we know the reasons why we should prototype, but are there any reasons why we should not prototype, or when? So let's think about it. Maybe because your design is really well thought out. So it is never really well thought out. You always have to check it. So even the most experienced guys in studio who work for games like for 20 years, I think, they also had to check all the things in reality if they want to make the best game. Okay, because you can make average game, but nobody wants it, right? So always is better to test your idea and then decide whether we should do the game on this idea or not. Maybe because you don't have time for prototyping. That's also not true, because prototyping actually saves your time. Let's imagine we have an idea for a game, for example, and we put a year of work of a team on that game, and then we take players, give it to them, and we realize, hey, the game is not so good. We spend a lot of time, and the guys don't like it. They don't understand how it works. And this is the waste of time. So if you would do a prototype at the very beginning for 1 month, and then you will give it to the players, for example, prototype without graphics, without anything, just pure gameplay, after a month you would know that the game is not good enough, and you can trash it and start another game. So it's 1 month versus one year, so it's not a waste of time. Of course, prototype should be done really cheap and fast, to not waste too much time on that. So maybe the third reason, because you imitate, and this is the only reason why you should not do prototypes when you are imitating, and this is nothing bad, because every one of us, I think, imitates something in their work. Maybe not the whole game, but we are inspired by other games and other productions. But I remember back in the day, someone wrote me that he wants to hire me to write another Flappy Bird clone of the game because he thought he can still make money on that. And should we, at this moment, I didn't do this, but should we, for example, prototype this Flappy Bird game if you want to make a clone? No, because the prototypes are already in the App Store. You can download them and see if they works or not. But if you would make a Flappy Bird game with shooting, for example, then you should probably prototype this shooting idea, because it's something new, it's something that probably nobody did it, but, or someone did, I don't know. But it's something new, so you should check only this idea for shooting without testing the whole gameplay for Flappy Bird, because it's already tested. So when you are imitating, you don't have to do prototypes because they are already done. Okay, so we know why we should do this, so let's talk about how we should do this. Once again, do it fast and cheap, so we can do everything here. We can steal assets from other games, you can use editors from other games, I don't know, everything possible. We are always, when we were doing prototypes in RMB Studios, we were taking assets from our previous games. For example, for this War of Mine, we were taking assets from Anomaly games. So it was quite funny at the beginning, but it worked. So it was really cheap and fast when we wanted to test some only mechanics. And with every prototype, you should ask a proper question important for your game. And it cannot be a question like, is my game fun? Because you have to make a whole game to actually answer that question correctly. But you should ask a maybe more detailed question. For example, is my idea of input system good for players? Will they understand it or not? Or is my idea for art style will raise good emotions, for example, or are my idea for a shooting system will be fun for players. So these are small questions that we can actually easily answer doing a prototype, small prototype. And with this war of mine, we had many problems to solve at the very beginning, so we divided those we divided the big problem for making game on a small problems, and we tried to solve them separately with different prototypes, and of course thinking about the big picture to not make 4 different games, and then we connected them. So our big problem was, are we able to raise emotions in players when they will play this War of Mine, which is a game about civilians struggling to survive the war. But it was really hard to answer it in an easy way, so we divided this problem on a small parts, and we answered every of those small problems, then connected it to the big one to answer to the big question. So we had like 4 or 5 prototypes at the very beginning for this War of Mine, and only one of them was done by a programmer, by the way. So, and it was me. So one was a more technical prototype of a movement system and how we want to build the scenes. Another prototype was done by designers. It was a prototype of a life parameters simulation for people. The other prototype was a prototype of a combat system, how we should calculate all those data. The fourth prototype was a prototype of the art style. And probably we started with a prototype of artificial intelligence at the very beginning. So it was like 4 or 5 prototypes at the same time, in the same studio for one game at the very beginning to solve those problems. And all of those prototypes were made to connect them together to try to rise those emotions in players. So we wasn't sure at the very beginning if this War of Mine would be a good game if we will finish it. So we did this prototype thing in like 2 or 3 months, and after that moment we answered us, should we do this game or not? And we did. But I will go back to this example later. So we divide problem on a smaller ones. It's really easier. And we have to choose proper prototype for every problem. So it's not always doing something in a game engine or something like that. You can do even a paper prototype, like a board game, and play it with your friends on a table. Or it can be just a, I don't know, algorithm that calculates something. It doesn't have to be like a typical work of a game developer at the very beginning. And the other thing is testing on people. The validation phase is, I think, the most important. So we come with an idea, we do a prototype of this idea, and then we validate on people. And we do it all the time to the moment when we are happy with our result. If we are not, we can just trash the idea and take another one, and so on and so on, to find the best way of achieving something. So the great moment is when we answer a question and we know, okay, it's good, let's make a game out of it. But what if we fail? It happens all the time, so you can always trash it because the prototype was fast and cheap, so it's not a waste of much money. So you can trash it and start from the beginning. And our basic rule was cool prototype helps in creating cool game. If prototype is not fun, the game won't be fun too. If you will add cool graphics and great animations to a crappy gameplay, the game will be crappy. So there's no idea of making the game to the end. So prototype has to be fun at the very beginning. If it's not, then you should make another game. At 11-bit studios, I think we trashed like 2, 3, maybe 4 prototypes of a game. So we could have 4 different games, but instead of this, we had Anomaly, we had this War of Mine, and Sleepwalker's Journey, which was quite good game. If you won't do this, we would have probably 4 mediocre games, and I won't be here today. So this is something that really went good. So we, of course, wasted some money on that, but it was saving money actually because we made better games because of that. Okay, so what about some examples? I told you something about it earlier. So for a designer, you can actually make paper or physical prototypes. You can take Lego bricks, plasticine, toys, parts of board games, and test simple mechanics in that way. It really works great. I will show you later. Some of the prototypes for this War of Mine were made without the computer, for example. Why do this? Because at many times it's really easier. For example, it's easier to write something on a whiteboard and to play with your friends on a whiteboard with some imaginary game than to implement this. So it's like 10 times faster or 100 times faster at most cases. You can test simple mechanics for the game in that way. It's really easier to make it on a paper than on a computer. You can use even a metronome for real-time simulation. We heard about the guys who were prototyping in a physical way the idea for an infinite runner game, this type of the game. So there was a metronome ticking in a tempo. One guy was moving obstacles, and the other was faking jumping by a character. And in that really primitive way, they could choose the best mechanics they found and trash all those bad mechanics and implement in a game only the best ones. So it was also saving the time. So little insight, but not only on this War of Mine, but Anomaly. This is very first prototype of a multiplayer mode for Anomaly 2, because in Anomaly 2 we added multiplayer when one guy is playing towers and the other guy is playing those things, those tanks and stuff. So once again, we had in a studio like 8 or 10 ideas how we can make this multiplayer mode, because it wasn't that simple. And during 5 hours of writing on a whiteboard, they trashed most of them, because in that, we used some rocks, we are drawing at this whiteboard, and we are simulating the game that way. And in that easy way, in 5 hours, we could see which gameplay mode is better or not. So, for example, in which mode both players are engaged the same, in which are not, because in some of the modes, for example, one player was bored and the other was playing the action. So, and imagine we would implement those 8 things in a game engine. It would take us months of work, and we just spent 5 hours on trashing most of the ideas and choosing the best one. So this really works. Okay, you can do fake paper prototypes. So this is one of the very first prototypes of this War of Mine. It was done in Excel. It's just a simple sheet that has those life parameters. Sorry, it's in Polish, but it's the original one. You have those life parameters here, like being sick, being tired, being hungry, sad, or wounded. And here are really simple actions that you can do in this Excel, and there behind were some equations that were calculating it. And even in that simple way, we could find the best way and do a first balance of the game, because we needed to make a simulation that it will be possible to live for a few days and so on. So the same was in the game. So it was one of the first prototypes for this War of Mine. Okay, so let's jump to the prototype examples for programmers. Most of the times these are not tests of game mechanics at the very beginning, but there can be technological prototypes, like for example testing some graphical effects, or if our algorithm will be fast enough for our game. So we can find the risks and technical difficulties at the very, very beginning in a quite easy way. And if it's important, we can find this efficiency at the very beginning and find those best algorithms. And if it's needed, we can work on the compatibility with hardware at the very beginning. So, because if you will do a game on a PC and then try to put it on a mobile and it won't work, so it was a waste of time. So let's try at the very beginning if you can do it. And this was this War of Mine. From the very beginning, we wanted to put it on mobiles, and we did. But we had to check some graphical effects and stuff at the very beginning if it will be good enough. So we had this graphical effect. So it's another prototype. It's a prototype of this effect of making the places that we don't see dark. I don't know how to say it better. So it's not rocket science, nothing really hard. But we wanted to check if our algorithm for that will work on mobiles or not, if it will be fast enough or not. Because on PC there wasn't a problem. And first implementation was not good. It was working too slow, because later you saw in the game that only it is applied for one person, but we were testing ideas also, what if we will be going like many people, so we should calculate this effect for every one of them and connect them. So our first implementation, our idea for this effect was bad because it wasn't fast enough. So we had to change it, and we finally found a solution which was quite fast. And we knew that okay, we are able to put the game on mobiles. Of course, it's not only thing that we tested for mobiles, but it's one of the examples. So it doesn't have to be a game. This programming prototype, it can be even a console program which calculates some data which we'll need for the game. So also we don't have to make it in a game engine. It doesn't have to be. So the other branch is art. This is actually something that everybody does, I think. It's prototyping of the art style. Once again, we are not doing this in a game engine. The guys were just sitting with Photoshop and playing with ideas. So you can see some probably already published, some very first concepts for the art style for the game. So here we have some more and more. And finally we found it was quite close to what we did in the end, because in the end it looked like that, so probably you know. So we choose the best one, and without making a game we can find the best art style at the very beginning. So we had to do this at the very beginning to answer this question if you can write those emotions or not. So we needed to know it at the very beginning. Okay, the other type of prototype is something we call digital prototype. It's like a connection of mixture of paper prototype and technological prototype. It's the first moment when programmer meets designer in the game in our company. So it's a fast implementation of certain parts of the game. So we put those paper prototypes or prototypes from Excel sheet and we put it in a game. But most of the times we try to use existing tools. So we steal assets, we use even editors from other games. You can, I don't know, prototype a level in Blender or not in engine if it's faster. And art is not always necessary at this moment because it's testing of some mechanics. You don't have to have assets because it will be too expensive to make it with good assets. And actually, programmer is not always necessary at this moment too. So most of the times there are, but you can do it without a programmer. I will show you an example. So actually, this was done by a programmer. It was done by me. So it was the first prototype of a movement system for this war of mine. So we have like those dummy elements of a building. Those brown boxes were items. We were imagining there's a fridge, bed, and I don't know, something other. So we could go to those items and use them. The characters are from Anomaly. They are even without textures. Everything here is without textures because it was cheaper and faster. So it was the first prototype of a input system and movement system for the game. And you could do nothing more here, but it was enough. And it was like fast. Once again, it took us like a few days to test it if this idea was good or not. So we had a lot of ideas how this input should work. When we click on the item, what person will do? Should he go, or should some menu will appear, or we should do icons? So there were many iterations, and we could find the best one really fast. Yeah, but digital prototype done by designer, how it looks. Most of the things you can do by yourself. You don't have to be a skilled programmer. You can only know the basics and you will do a good prototype. It doesn't have to look like a game, and it's implementation of a paper prototype. So you remember this? This thing, yeah. So it was really small, fake paper prototype done in Excel. But when they were adding some new rules to those parameters, it was getting really hard to manage this in a single sheet. So they still didn't have a programmer because I was doing totally different things. So the guys knew the basic of C#, so they just implemented the application by themselves. One designer made it. It's a simple program in C#. It's an implementation of that Excel sheet with adding more people, adding more action you can do, adding items you can use. So it was another iteration. And once again, it wasn't a game. It wasn't done in the game engine. It was done separately because it was faster. And actually, what they did in that program, in 90%, I think, is in the final game. So they were able to do it really fast and quick, to find the best rules, to balance it. So when they gave it to me, it was like totally ready system. I could just put it in a game, rewrite it, of course, and it worked. So it was really faster than if you would work like programmer and designer. They can spend like months doing this in a game engine. It would take more time. So this is the cheaper way. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, something for programmers. This, what I will say now, can be controversial, I think, because once again, we have to do it fast and do it dirty. So when we are programming prototypes, we do it really bad way. So we forgot for a moment about all the good practice of programming, of cleaning code, of everything. We can use global variables. We can forget about object-oriented programming. We just have to make it to work. This code doesn't have to be good, because nobody will then work on that, because we will probably trash it anyway. So it's really good to write it as fast as possible, and just to make it work, just to check if the game mechanic works. Of course, then if idea is good, we can rewrite it. I will tell you about it later. So it's not that bad. So premature optimization is the root of all evil, and that's true except moment when you are testing efficiency. So in that moment you have to optimize, but all the other cases no. So don't think about optimization, don't think about writing your algorithm efficient way. Just do it as quick as possible, and then you will fix it if it's needed. Keep it simple, stupid, or keep it simple software. So write it as simple as possible, as I said. If something is optional, then forget about something, because when we are writing code for serious, of course, we have to think how this code will evolve later. For example, if we are doing a weapon for a game, we should think, what if we will add armors to the game? What if we will add more weapons? We should write code to make it that will be easy to expand later, but not at this moment. So at the moment of prototyping, just don't think, write, make it as fast as possible, because you will trash it anyway. So less is more, but it's always better to write more smaller prototypes than less bigger prototypes. So do it as small as possible. Don't fear to destroy and erase your code to improve it. So that's why you can write it in a bad way. It's faster to write it in a bad way and then just destroy it and write it from the beginning. So because all the game programming, all the game production is about iterating. Okay, so you have to find those best ideas. You should never stick to the first idea, right? And for God's sake, don't write your own engine. Or if you need it, you can do it. But don't do it for prototypes. So you should always use existing engine for some prototypes of the game mechanics. For example, some companies that have their own engine, they do prototypes in, for example, Unreal or Unity because it's faster. And then when they decide the game is good, they rewrite it again on their own engine because it's really cheaper. Most of the times, on smaller companies, those engines and editors that we have inside are not as good to prototype as, for example, Unity. So it's really good to use existing tools. So in the last, and I think the most important type of prototype is this prototype demo thing that everybody thinks about prototype. This is what they think about. So it's like everything combined. It's like digital prototype plus art prototype. So this was this big problem that we wanted to solve in this war of mine, and we divided this on small parts and then connected this to this prototype demo. And this is the only prototype that actually mimics real game because it has everything we need at the moment. And it answers the big question: are we happy with our game? Is our goal achieved? So our question was: can we raise those emotions in players or not? Because it was be dead or alive for this game. If you would fail at this moment, we won't make this game, and we will make another one. And it's essential when looking for an investor or publisher. So this wasn't the case at 11-bit Studios because they are investor and publisher and the developer themselves. But for example, when I was starting my own studio, we had to do a prototype of the game with some prototype of the art style to find a good investor and publisher, because nobody will invest in your idea only. Maybe if they know you already and you cooperated on previous projects, maybe yes. But when you are, when you meet new guys, you have to show them prototype to get money, at most cases. So you have to do this anyway. And prototype demo for this war of mine looked like that. So at the first look, it looks the same as the final game, but when you look in the details, if you know the game, it looks totally different. So it was done in a few months of work only, and it was a connection of all those prototypes I showed you earlier. So there's this simulation of life parameters, which are written on a player's box. There's a scene, so there are items and icons. So this was the thing I was prototyping. There's a combat system, but it's not visible in the shelter place. So there's in a different place. There's an art style applied to the game. So this is the first moment when it looked like a final game actually. So it was done in a few months, and after that we decided, hey, the game is good. The players like it. The players, feel something when they play this game. So we should make it. All right. So. What next? When we have this prototype demo, we validate it on people, mostly. So we can test it on developers, but also we should always test on some players, because the developer will give totally different feedback than the player. And when we have our answer, we break the loop of iterating, and we have to make the decision which I was talking about. We develop it further if it's good. So here comes the cleaning phase. So here you can clean all those crappy code you wrote, you can trash all the stolen assets and do your own assets. You can clean everything here to make it ready for a full production phase. And then you jump into production, right? But if you will trash it, okay, you trash the game, you lost like a month or two of work, but not everything is lost, because that was the typical case in the Untitled Studios, that when we had the prototype and we trashed it, we came with new ideas how to use it to make another game out of it. So another cool fact about this war of mine. This war of mine were planned as a totally different game. We had a plan for I cannot say exactly what, but it was quite similar in the mechanics, but it wasn't about war. It was more fictional, more post-apocalyptic, and more about combat. So there were no emotions in this game. It was a totally different thing. We spent like 2 or 3 months in prototyping that idea because it was cool, and we made a prototype. We played it by themselves. We gave this prototype to people, and it was good, but it wasn't good enough. We wanted to make the best game we can, so we decided, hey, it's not good enough. We thought it would be better, so let's trash it. And then someone came with an idea that he read some article from a guy who survived Siege of Sarajevo, as I recall, and he gave it to us. Hey, let's make a game about it. And we thought, oh, that's a really nice idea. So we took that trashed prototype, we took the idea about the civilians, and we connected it. So we started making those prototypes for this war of mine at that moment, and we did this game. So once again, this is a success story, right? So we trashed like a few months of work, but we made this war of mine instead of other game which won't be that successful. And it was the case with every game. So Anomaly had like 3 prototypes, as I said. Sleepwalker's Journey rised from a totally different game. We had an idea for a small mobile game that was fun, but players didn't understand how to play it, so it sucked. So we trashed it and did another game out of it. So we never stick to our first idea. We allow us to, to take a step back to make then 2 steps ahead. So it's really nice. Everybody should do that way, in my opinion, because there won't be so many crappy games if everybody would work like that. So production phase and prototyping. So this what I told you, it was about pre-production actually, but as I said at the beginning, it's not only about sketching the first prototype in the pre-production, because even in a full production or even after the production, there are always some unknowns. Like we add new big mechanic to a game, so we never know at the beginning how to do this and it will be fun or not. So let's prototype them. So we are prototyping ideas through the whole development, and even now we are prototyping because another example, when we are in January the game will be launched on consoles, so we had to add gamepad support. Once again, we had many ideas how to do it, so we did small prototypes, small fast implementations of gamepad support. So we had like 3 or 4 iterations on that. So we trashed all the others and we chose the best one. So, and the first idea was the worst one, so we had to work on that a few times. Giant documentation produces giant implementation, and it's so wrong. So Never, you know, just sit and write a big document and give it to a programmer and make him spend on this half of a year, because it won't work. So it's better not writing documentation, but just doing those things. So instead of writing, just sit and implement some of your ideas and check if it's good or not. It's so much better, and we do it all the time. Iterate over all your elements of your game, so never stick to the first idea. And prototyping can be applied to design, code, and art. These were the examples on that, but also to marketing. We even prototype marketing ideas. So we were prototyping, for example, a description of an application for App Store, if it's good for players or not. So we had like many versions that gave them to the players to hear their opinion. We are prototyping icons for the game logos, everything. We are even prototyping the name of the game. Maybe not this one. Yeah, this one. Yeah, we had many different ideas, and we chose the best one, which connected with the game the best way. So we prototype like everything. For example, this is a screenshot from a very first prototype of our first trailer for the game. So once again, we did some prototypes, some sketches, choose the best one, and implemented it in a good way. So we do prototypes with everything possible. In a game, and even after the release of the game, when we want to add something new. All right, so thank you very much. Do you have? Thank you. Do you have any questions? Okay.
Yeah, can you tell me what's the other names for this war of mine? You said you were prototyping the name. What was the meaning of this name?
Do you record this presentation? Because I'm not sure if I can say it. Are you recording this presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, I will tell you later, okay? Outside. Sorry. Probably it's a secret.
I think that the last time I played this game, it was March this year, and I don't even know if there were any updates. I mean, locations and characters. Were they or no?
Yes, I don't know. I don't remember exactly when those updates were going, but there were many updates. Like one was adding probably some new locations, new characters. Editor, you can create your own characters. You can create your own scenarios now. We did support for workshop on Steam, so you can download other people's scenarios. And as far as I know, there will be more of the updates. So the game is still in the development.
So you're planning some more updates?
Yes, but actually not me, because I left them. But they still work on some updates. Actually, there's some features that I made are not already published. So there will be more. Maybe not many, but they still develop the game.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for a great presentation, Greg. I just wanted to ask you how many I don't know, maybe years or how many iterations to get to this prototype idea of sketching and iterating all the time.
Okay.
So was it for you like a native way to develop, or it was like a story of a painful development until you made this prototype?
Okay, so we prototyped at the moment when we are happy with this. So there's no idea to make a game if we are not happy. So we are iterating to this moment that we are happy with our result, and it's not painful. For me, it's the best. I think the best thing about doing the games, because when you are prototyping, you are playing with the ideas. It's really fun. So then real production and the end of the project, when you have to fix bugs, it's boring. And this is painful. So the prototyping is all about fun. So for me, it's favorite thing about doing games is prototyping.
I wanted to ask, because I heard that you are planning to make a second installment or a similar game about kids in time of war. Is it true?
Yes, this is the console version of the game. The guys decided to make the version of the game for the consoles, and they put a lot of new stuff there, which are mostly kids. Yeah, and you have kids. Everybody asked about this, I will tell. I don't know when it will be on PC.
Will it be similar like this War of Mine?
Yes, it's exactly the same game, plus new mechanics and plus children. So we can have children in shelter, so it totally changes the game. But it's basically the same, plus more content.
Okay, thank you. Wish you good luck with the next game.
Thank you.
So you say that when you make a prototype, it's not necessary to be like correct code. It should be faster, and it's not necessary to be correct.
Yeah.
But I have a question. So imagine that you make a prototype and you trash it, and another one, and another one. It's not a waste of time because you should think like something like correct. For example, in programming, right? We make a code faster and we don't watching the idea, we just make the prototype and we trash. And then again, and we again work faster, we again don't make the changes.
You ask if it's not a waste of time, right?
Yeah,
that was the question?
If we prototype like faster, it's not a waste of time? Many prototypes.
Yeah, well, actually this is the idea of this prototyping because, okay, maybe other companies do it other way and they do it better, but it worked in our case because all the time when we had, for example, idea for a game mechanic, we made so many iterations that even if you would do a good code on this from the beginning, then the 90% of this code would be trashed nonetheless. So it's saving time actually when you do it fast, then, and you know that probably most of those code will be trashed, not because of you, but because the design, for example, is not good enough or the players won't like it. So there's no sense in doing this in a good way at the very beginning. Then if it's good, you should rewrite it probably to the future, but at the very beginning it's saving time because it's about iterating, so it works in our case.
Okay, the question is, like, are you setting some strict deadlines, like for the project release?
Of course.
How is actually feed the prototyping?
So we never had deadlines at the very beginning. So at the pre-production, when everything is prototype, we don't have deadlines, of course, because we don't know what exactly we will do with this game. So, but I think we have deadlines after don't know about after half of development. This is the moment when we choose our deadline, when we want to finish, because at that moment we know what we want to make in this game. So we didn't have any deadlines at the very beginning. So for example, we have one game, another game, it will be the next game after this War of Mine, this 11-bit Studios. They are prototyping it for, oh my god, so many months, maybe more than a year. But they are finding the best idea because they want to make a game better than this. So it's really hard, and they are iterating and iterating. They have a third big idea for the game. So and they don't have deadline at this moment. So of course they have discomfort, but they have money for that. Not everybody has. So sometimes you have to have this deadline. But I don't know if it's a good idea if you have a not so cool prototype, but you have the deadline and you finish the game with that is not very, very, very good. So it's better for me to cancel the game.
One more question. Aren't those guys afraid to make kids in the game if it's about survival? So there will be a possibility that kid can die. And I don't know a lot of projects where we can find kids like Fallout, but they can't die there.
Yes.
And here.
Yes. So this was really hard topic because we didn't want to make it controversial, because that wasn't the case. We wanted to add children to make it more complete, because many of the guys in the studio have children and they wanted to have these children in a game to have this more emotions, but we did it in a special way. Actually, you won't see the child dies in the game. We haven't done it. So we do some tricks, because it still has to be survival. The kid has to struggle for survival, but it's not brutal. You cannot kill the child. You won't see him dead. So we do some tricks. If you will see the game, I won't spoil. I don't want to spoil you that. So it's not that bad. That's why we haven't shown any there are no rapes or something like that, too much brutality. We talk about rapes in one of the scenes in a game. There is a scene of rape, but you don't see actually raping because it's too much. We decided that it's not important because the message, there is a message, so you don't have to show everything. Yeah, so it's like an art or something.
Okay, let me repeat one more time. Happy birthday, and let's your dream comes true.
Thank you.
And the question: how did you define your target audience for the game?
How we define it?
Target audience.
I don't know. We have an idea for the game, and we think who will like it, of course. And we of course, I don't know how exactly we do this because it's not my job, but we have an idea. So at that moment, we have to think who will like the game because we have to find a target. So we can estimate how many people will buy it. So we know how many money we can spend on this. And then when we have this idea who we want to target, we give them the game, for example, or a prototype and test if they will like it or not. So for this war of mine, it was the specific player. Not everybody likes this game, so we had to choose only those people that will be interested in this game. So, and for every game in our studio, we had different targets, so it's not the same.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you very much once again.